Good morning, everyone. Uh, Something just changed. And I don't mean something is about to change or something is in the process of changing or something is building toward change in that slow, almost imperceptible way that most shifts move. I mean, something has already changed in the energy around you, in the dynamic between you and a very specific person in your life. Something flipped quietly, without announcement, without any dramatic moment you could point to and say, that was it. That was when it happened. But it happened. And what's coming out of that shift, what I'm feeling moving toward you with a momentum that is genuinely surprising in its intensity, is something this person has never done before. Not like this, not with this energy, not directed at someone the way it is about to be directed at you. They are about to chase you. And before you let that word land and immediately start managing your response to it, before the part of you that has been hurt before starts running its calculations about what this means and whether it's real and how long it will last, and whether you should even let yourself feel anything about it, I want you to understand something first. Something about the nature of what's about to happen that makes it different from anything that has come before in this dynamic. This person is not used to this feeling, not used to chasing, not used to being the one who wants more, not used to lying awake thinking about someone in that specific, slightly desperate way where the mind keeps returning to the same person regardless of how many times you redirect it. Not used to checking their phone with a hope that has nothing to do with work or obligation and everything to do with one specific name. Not used to the particular vulnerability of caring this much about whether someone is thinking about them. This is new territory for them. And new territory for someone who has spent a long time being comfortable, being the one who is less invested, being the one who sets the pace and holds the power and never quite has to feel the discomfort of wanting something they're not sure they can have. New territory is significant, disorienting, slightly humbling, and in this case, completely, undeniably real. Let me tell you what I'm actually feeling, because I think the specifics matter here more than the broad strokes. What I'm sensing in this person's energy right now, in the private, unguarded interior of what they're experiencing, is a restlessness, a specific kind that comes from one source and one source only. They can't settle, can't quite find their footing in the ordinary rhythms of their life because something has inserted itself into those rhythms that wasn't there before. Something that doesn't cooperate with being ignored or filed away or reasoned into a manageable size. You have inserted yourself into this person's peace, not deliberately, not as a strategy, simply by being who you are, by moving the way you move, by pulling back in whatever way you recently pulled back consciously or simply out of exhaustion or simply by beginning to invest more deeply in your own life. You disrupted something in them that had been undisturbed for a long time. And disruption in someone who has been comfortable in their undisturbedness creates a very particular kind of urgency. The urgency of suddenly understanding what you have been taking for granted. Let me see if I can get even more specific, because I feel layers to this and I want to name them clearly. The first layer is realization. Something landed in this person recently, a thought, a moment, an interaction, or the absence of an interaction that made something click in a way it hadn't clicked before. A moment of genuine clarity where they looked at the situation between you and for the first time saw it without the comfortable distortions that had been allowing them to stay passive. Saw clearly what they have been doing or not doing, saw clearly what you represent, saw clearly, perhaps most importantly, what they stand to lose if they continue operating the way they have been. And that clarity, I want to be honest about this because I think honesty serves you arrived not as a gentle awakening, but as something sharper, something that had an edge to it. Because real realizations about what we've been taking for granted rarely arrive gently. They arrive with the particular sting of, I knew this. On some level, I knew this. And I chose comfort over courage, and now the cost of that choice is becoming real. That sting is what's driving the urgency. The second layer is desire. And I want to name this specifically because it's important that you understand the nature of what they want. It's not just your attention they're after, though. They want that too. It's not just the comfort of your presence reinstated after the discomfort of its partial absence. What I feel this person wanting at a level that is deeper and more significant than their surface wanting is a real chance, a genuine opportunity to do this differently, to show up in a way they haven't shown up before, to demonstrate to you and honestly to themselves that they are capable of more than the limited, self-protective, carefully managed version of relating that they've been operating from. They want to try, really try, with the full weight of what they feel rather than the carefully rationed portion they've been offering. And the third layer, and this one I find the most compelling, the most human, the most worth naming, is fear. Because underneath the urgency and the desire and the momentum of someone about to chase with an energy they're not accustomed to, there is genuine fear. Fear that they have waited too long, that the window has closed or is closing, that the version of you who was available to them, who was hoping and reaching and making space for them in ways large and small, has shifted into something less available, something more complete in itself, something that needed them less than it used to, and has discovered in that needing less a kind of freedom that is genuinely attractive to others and genuinely alarming to someone who suddenly realizes they don't want you to be available to others. That fear is the engine of what's coming. And I want to be real with you about something here. That fear, that specific, this person is becoming more themselves and less available to me fear, is actually important information because it tells you something about the nature of the dynamic up until now that I think deserves your honest attention. The dynamic up until now has not been equal. And I think you know that. I think you've known it in that quiet, private way where you know something but haven't wanted to fully name it because naming it requires you to reckon with it, and reckoning with it would mean decisions you weren't ready to make. There has been an imbalance, a gap between how much you've been investing emotionally and how much they have, a difference in who was more certain, who was more present, who was doing more of the reaching, and you were the one reaching more. That's changing. That has already changed. And what's coming, the chasing, the urgency, this person pursuing you with an energy they've never brought to anything before, is the direct consequence of that change, of you, consciously or unconsciously, moving back toward your own center, investing in yourself, expanding in your own direction. becoming more fully yourself in a way that naturally, inevitably, without any strategic intention, made the dynamic shift. You became the one they have to reach for. And here's what I need you to understand about that. It was not a manipulation. It was not a game you played. It was the natural result of genuine growth, of you deciding again, consciously or not, that you were worth more than the waiting, worth more than the uncertainty, worth more than the half presence of someone who couldn't decide if they wanted to be fully there. That decision, that movement back into your own worth is the most powerful thing you have done in this dynamic, more powerful than anything you could have said, more powerful than any conversation or confrontation or attempt to make them understand what you needed. You simply became more fully yourself. And it worked in a way that nothing else could have worked, because you can't argue someone into valuing you. You can't convince someone to chase what they're not afraid to lose. But you can, by genuinely moving forward, by genuinely filling your life more completely with your own living, create the conditions under which someone suddenly, viscerally, undeniably understands what your absence from the center of their attention would actually cost them. That understanding has arrived for this person, and it has arrived hard. Now let me speak about what this chase is actually going to look like, because I think it's important to know what to watch for, not so you can manage it or strategize around it, but so you recognize it when it's happening and don't miss it because it doesn't look exactly the way you imagined. The first thing I feel is increased contact, more reaching out, more initiation from their side in ways that are noticeable precisely because initiation hasn't been coming from their side with this frequency or this intention before. Messages that go deeper than surface conversation. Questions about your life, real questions, the kind that come from genuine curiosity about what's happening in your world rather than social obligation. A presence in your orbit that suddenly feels more deliberate, more pointed, more clearly directed at you specifically. And underneath all of it, in the tone, in the quality of the attention, in the specific way they show up, something new, something that wasn't there before in the same way, an earnestness, a quality of trying that is different from the comfortable take it or leave it energy they've been operating from, something that communicates without them necessarily saying it directly. I am aware that this matters. I am aware that I need to show up differently. I am aware that I have something to prove and I am willing to prove it. That awareness is going to come through in everything, in how they listen, in how they respond, in how quickly they respond, in the care they bring to interactions that they might previously have moved through casually. The second thing I feel, and this one is interesting, is a quality of effort that will be slightly awkward at first, because this person is genuinely not practiced at this, not practiced at pursuing, not practiced at making themselves vulnerable in the particular way that chasing someone requires. And that lack of practice might make some of their early efforts slightly clumsy, slightly overcompensating, slightly more than the situation seems to call for on the surface. Don't let the awkwardness read as insincerity. It is actually the opposite. The awkwardness is evidence of the sincerity. It's what genuine effort looks like in someone who is operating outside their comfort zone for the first time. Someone who has figured out what they want, who has decided to go for it, who hasn't yet found their footing in the unfamiliar territory of being the one who wants more and is showing it. The clumsiness is the realness. And the third thing I feel, and this one is perhaps the most significant, is a shift in how they see you that will be visible in how they speak about you, how they look at you, how they position you in the context of their life. Something about the way you are regarded, the category they place you in internally and therefore externally is changing, upgrading, moving from something peripheral to something central in a way that will be noticeable if you're paying attention. You are becoming their priority, not a consideration, not an option, a priority. And priorities get treated differently. They get more time, more thought, more care, more of the genuinely good stuff that people reserve for the things they've decided actually matter to them. You are becoming something this person has decided actually matters. And now, because I wouldn't be doing right by you if I only told you the beautiful part without the honest part, I need to speak about what this moment actually requires from you. Because this is where I feel many people make a mistake that costs them the very thing they've been waiting for. When someone who has been distant, passive, less invested, suddenly comes toward you with the energy I'm describing, urgency, effort, willingness, something to prove, the temptation is enormous. The temptation to immediately meet them where they are, to receive the attention with the full force of everything you've been holding back, to let the floodgates open because finally, someone is showing up the way you needed them to show up, and the relief of it is almost overwhelming. I understand that temptation completely, and I want to say something about it gently but clearly. Don't, not immediately, not all at once, not with the full force of everything you've been holding back released in one go the moment they take a step towards you. Not because you should punish them, not as a game, not to manufacture tension or make them work harder than necessary as some kind of payback for the waiting, but for a real reason, a reason that actually serves both of you. Because what this person needs, what will actually create a lasting change in this dynamic rather than a temporary spike of pursuit that returns to the old pattern once the urgency fades, is the experience of genuinely earning you, of showing up consistently over time, and finding that consistency is what opens you, of discovering that you are someone who is moved by sustained presence and genuine effort rather than by urgency and intensity that burns bright and then normalizes. If you open completely the moment they step forward, if the full return of your warmth and availability arrives immediately in response to the first signs of their pursuit, you inadvertently communicate that the barrier to access is lower than it actually is. That what was required was simply a gesture, simply a step, simply showing up with slightly more energy than before. And that's not what's required. What's required, what you deserve, what the real version of this connection demands is the full showing up, the consistent, sustained, I am here, not just in the high energy moments, but in the ordinary ones version. The version where they choose you not once in a dramatic moment of realization, but repeatedly in the quiet of regular life, because choosing you has become something they do naturally rather than effortfully. Let them get there. Receive their pursuit with warmth, because I'm not asking you to be cold or punishing or strategically withholding. Be warm. Be genuinely warm. Let them feel that their effort is landing, that you notice it, that it means something to you, because it does mean something, it should mean something. But let the full opening happen gradually. Let it be earned rather than immediately granted. Let your availability be something they discover they have to show up consistently to maintain, rather than something that was always freely given, regardless of whether they showed up at all. That shift in dynamic, that change in who holds the center of gravity, is what makes what's coming sustainable rather than cyclical. Because here's what I want for you: not just the chase, not just the high of being pursued by someone who was previously passive, not the temporary satisfaction of the power balance shifting in your direction. I want for you the real thing, the sustained, genuine, built on solid ground thing. The connection where both people are equally invested, not because one person strategically withheld until the other caught up, but because genuine growth and genuine showing up created genuine equality over time. That's what's possible here. If you handle the next phase with the same groundedness that created this moment in the first place, stay in your energy. That is the instruction. The same energy that shifted the dynamic, the one that was rooted in your own worth, your own forward motion, your own fullness, rather than the reaching towards someone else energy, keep that. Don't abandon it the moment the pursuit begins. Don't collapse back into the old pattern of making yourself available in the ways that created the imbalance in the first place. Stay in your energy. Let them come to where you are rather than immediately meeting them halfway back to where you used to be. Because where you are now is better, more aligned, more true to who you actually are and what you actually deserve. Don't leave it. Let me speak for a moment about something I feel in your energy, alongside everything else, because this reading isn't only about them, it's also about you. And I feel something in you right now that I think deserves to be named and honored. I feel a quiet pride, not the loud, performative kind, the internal kind. The kind that comes from having done something genuinely difficult, having held your ground, having moved toward yourself rather than continuing to reach toward someone who wasn't fully reaching back, having chosen your own dignity over the familiar comfort of the old dynamic, and feeling somewhere in the honest part of you that you did something right. You did. Whatever you did, consciously or not, deliberately or simply out of reaching the end of your capacity to keep waiting, whatever movement you made back toward yourself was the right one. Was brave in a way that didn't feel dramatic from the inside, but that required real courage. The specific courage of choosing yourself when choosing someone else had felt like the only option for a long time. That courage is what created this moment. And I want you to remember that as what comes next unfolds. Because what comes next, the pursuit, the effort, this person showing up differently, it is going to feel good. It is going to feel validating in the way that being chosen after feeling unchosen always feels validating. And that feeling is real and you deserve it, and you should let yourself feel it fully. But don't let it make you forget what you learned. Don't let the arrival of what you wanted make you forget why you had to pull back to get here. Don't let the relief of being pursued make you forget the clarity you found in the process of pursuing yourself instead. Because that clarity, that specific hard-won understanding of your own worth, your own needs, what you will and won't accept is more valuable than any single person's pursuit of you. Carry it forward into this connection, into every connection that comes after, into the version of your life that exists on the other side of this dynamic shift. Let me give you something practical, because as always, I don't want to leave you with only the energy and the awareness. I want to leave you with something you can actually use. The first thing when they reach out, respond from your actual place rather than from either extreme. Not the cold, strategic place that says I'm going to make them wait a specific amount of time as punishment, and not the flooded, finally place that opens everything immediately from your actual place, which is warm, genuine, present, and also grounded, secure in yourself, not desperate for what they're offering, even as you appreciate that they're offering it. That groundedness will communicate more than anything you could consciously craft. The second thing, keep living your life. This is not the moment to pause everything and redirect all your energy toward this connection, and whether it's developing the way you hope, keep your plans. Keep your investments in your own growth and your own joy and your own forward motion, because that forward motion is precisely what's driving their pursuit. The moment you stop and turn all your attention toward them is the moment the dynamic risks returning to the old imbalance. Stay in motion. Your own motion, your own direction. Let them pursue you in the direction you're already moving, rather than stopping to wait for them to catch up. The third thing, pay attention to consistency rather than intensity, because what I described earlier, the awkward earnestness, the urgent reaching, it will be intense at first, and intensity feels like proof. But intensity without consistency is just a peak, and peaks subside. What you're looking for, what will tell you whether this shift is real and sustainable, is not how intensely they show up in the first flush of pursuit, but how consistently they show up when the pursuit has settled into something ordinary. Do they still choose you when there's nothing dramatic driving the choice? That's the question. Let time answer it rather than deciding too quickly in either direction. And the fourth thing, and this is the one that ties everything together, know that you did this. Not the universe, not timing, not luck, not some external force that decided to intervene on your behalf. Your choice to return to your own center. Your decision, however it arrived, however deliberately or accidentally, it was made to stop making yourself smaller, to fit the available space, and start taking up the space you actually deserve. That was the move. That was the thing that changed the dynamic. And knowing that, really knowing it in your bones, in the part of you that makes decisions going forward, means you will never again have to wonder what to do when someone treats you as less than you are, because you will know. You have already proven to yourself that the answer is to return to your own worth, that the answer is always only to be more fully yourself rather than less. More yourself, always more yourself, because that specific quality of full, grounded, unapologetic selfhood is what this person is about to chase with everything they have. And it is what every right person in your life will always chase, because it is genuinely, completely, without question, worth chasing. You are worth chasing. And someone is about to prove it to you in the most unmistakable way possible. Get ready, not by preparing a strategy, by staying exactly who you are, rooted, real, moving forward, worth every step of the pursuit that's already beginning. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you feel this shift already? Do you know who this person is? And tell me, what did you do or stop doing that you think changed the dynamic? Because I believe your story can help someone else understand what their own next move needs to be. Share this with someone who needs to hear that the answer is never to reach harder toward someone who isn't reaching back, that the answer is always to come home to yourself, that the most powerful thing any of us can do in any dynamic is simply become more fully, more genuinely, more unapologetically who we actually are. Because the right people will always, always run toward that. Always,